Good evening and happy Molina Monday. Today, I'm going to keep it short and sweet and break down not only eviction data, but even more importantly, inflation and housing inventory data that you need to be aware of and how they all correlate. Let's start out with eviction data because this has a direct correlation with inflation and interest rates. I'll break that down for you as well. Goldman Sachs expects 750,000 households will be evicted by the end of the year because presently there are 3.5 million households behind on their rent, and we are still waiting on government rent relief to come in which only 11% out of the $47 billion that was promised has actually been allocated. Now, Goldman Sachs thinks that the 750,000 evictions will have a deflationary effect on the economy. But how does that impact interest rates? It's very simple. There's a big debate right now between whether inflation is transitory or here to stay. And the Fed just had a huge meeting called the Jackson Hole Symposium, where the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, basically said this: look, if we have high inflation and we try to respond with policy action to push that inflation down, and we respond at the inflection point, but then inflation ends up being transitory and rotates down, our policy action actually has a lag. So rather than our policy action actually happening at the inflection point, our policy action to slow down inflation might come late. And if the reasons we took policy action were high inflation, but then our policy action takes effect later when inflation is lower, then we could really hurt the market. So the Fed is essentially telling everyone, look, we think inflation is transitory. We are not going to raise interest rates because if inflation is transitory, then by the time the effect of higher rates would settle in, we could crash the economy. And that is the last thing the Fed wants. So what does this mean for interest rates? Short and sweet. Interest rates will remain low. Even if the Fed begins to taper, do not expect interest rates to increase dramatically. The Fed is reinvesting their entire balance sheet back into mortgage-backed securities. If you don't understand that, I made a video 3 weeks ago breaking this down called The Number One Secret of Fed Tapering. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, housing inventory data. To give you some background, 1.77 million people are still in forbearance, and 850,000 of those people need to exit forbearance between now and the end of the year. This chart by Zillow, based on data from Black Knight's Mortgage Monitor, shows the number of projected expirations of those in mortgage forbearance, as well as the projected added housing inventory from now until July 2022 on a total basis, as well as the monthly basis based on 3 different scenarios. The first being 10% of total expirations resulting in added housing inventory, the second being 25%, and the last being 50%. In my opinion, the first scenario of 10%, as well as the third scenario of 50%, is just extremely unrealistic. I am predicting that the 25% scenario is more realistic. First of all, 25% is only 444,900 homes over a 10-month period, averaging out to 44,900 homes per month. It's not all at once. It's a slow trickle over 10 months that will get eaten up by the demand. And you need to understand this: 50% of all people who entered forbearance did not need to enter forbearance. They did it as a safeguard. Meanwhile, the equity in their house increased dramatically as a result of the increase in home values. And of the 50% of people who did not need forbearance, most of them will likely take the COVID-19 recovery standalone partial claim option, which is also called COVID-19 payment deferral, which allows them to resume their current mortgage payment and converts the payments they did miss into a zero interest second lien against the property that is repaid when they sell the home at a later undefined time. So they can resume their mortgage payment without having to modify or sell the home. Meanwhile, the equity in their home keeps increasing so that when they do sell at an undefined period in time, they can pay back the missed payments without having to worry about it. Second of all, for those who did not go with that option, they can take advantage of the modification options available. And these modifications are way different than any of the previous modification options that have been made available due to the government in one particular way. Check this out. If you are in forbearance and you are 90 days or more behind, there are no documentation requirements to modify. Previously, to modify, the process required lots of documentation and was rather cumbersome. Now it's as easy as a phone call. Third, the modification options are pretty awesome. The conventional loan modification reduces your total monthly principal and interest payment by 20%. So if your principal and interest was $2,000 a month, it would turn into $1,600 a month. The FHA modification reduces your P&I by 25%. So if it was $2,000 a month, it would turn into $1,500 a month. And the icing on the cake is that for both conventional and FHA, your interest rate is not allowed to increase. The downside, on the other hand, is that to do this, they extend the term of your loan, which increases the payback period. However, after you modify and make 3 consecutive payments, you are eligible to refinance back into a shorter payment plan and get back to building equity faster. Now, from a strictly data-driven, unemotional perspective, based on all my research, I could go into a million reasons why I believe the 25% scenario is the most realistic. So just for you, my topic next week is a deep dive into just housing inventory data alone, based on all the implications and critical fact checking of all the research out there. For now, that's all, folks. We covered a lot today, and this should be enough for you to head into this week with new data and a new arsenal to tackle this week head on with new information. So go out there, kick ass, have an amazing Molina Labor Day Monday. Talk to you soon. Molina out.